Imagine being so shy that even saying 2 words to someone feels like climbing a mountain. Now, imagine that same kid, barely a teenager, hiding from the world, growing up to dominate YouTube, build an empire worth billions, and become a name recognized in every corner of the internet. Sound impossible, right? But that's exactly what happened with a boy named Jimmy Donaldson, better known today as MrBeast. What started as a lonely kid whispering into a cheap camera turned into a snowball of obsession, risk-taking, and unbelievable stunts that shattered YouTube's limits. He gave away fortunes, broke world records, and built a media empire so massive that even Hollywood took notice. But behind the flashy videos, there's a story most people don't know. A story of battles with illness, painful sacrifices, shocking controversies, and comebacks so dramatic that they could rival a movie plot. This isn't just a story about YouTube. It's about how one boy's unstoppable obsession pushed him to rise higher than anyone else online, only to face storms that nearly destroyed it all. And yet, his journey is still far from over. Jimmy Donaldson was born on May 7, 1998 in North Carolina, into a family where both parents served in the U.S. military. On the surface, it may sound like a disciplined, structured childhood, but the reality was far more difficult. His parents' relationship was rocky, filled with problems that eventually led to divorce. By 2007, Jimmy's mother was raising him and his younger brother on her own. For a kid already terrified of attention, this split added even more weight. Jimmy found it almost impossible to speak up in front of people. While other children his age formed friend groups, joked on playgrounds, and blended into classrooms, Jimmy stood apart. He was a quiet kid with a cap pulled low over his face, wishing he could be invisible. Sports seemed like a possible escape. At the age of 10, baseball became his obsession. He would study players, practice movements, and push himself on the field. But even there, his shyness showed. While other teammates shouted and celebrated, Jimmy kept his head down. The cap stayed low, and conversations never came easily. He could throw a ball, but he couldn't throw himself into friendships. At home, things weren't much brighter. His mom's long military shifts left gaps of empty hours where Jimmy was completely alone. That loneliness could have consumed him forever, if not for one discovery that changed his fate. One day, Jimmy stumbled onto a website where ordinary people were uploading their own homemade videos. It wasn't television. It wasn't actors or celebrities. It was real people, regular kids and gamers, sharing moments of their lives and passions. That platform was YouTube. What started as random browsing quickly became an obsession. Jimmy dived headfirst into watching Minecraft battles, Call of Duty commentary, and every creator who seemed to make a living just from talking into a camera. Unlike school or sports, this new world didn't reject him. It didn't care that he was quiet. And for the first time, Jimmy felt like maybe he could belong somewhere. He didn't know it yet, but the lonely boy hiding behind a baseball cap had just stumbled into the first step of his future empire. Once Jimmy discovered YouTube, it didn't take long for him to get hooked. What started as passing time quickly became an obsession. He would watch hours of Minecraft battles, Call of Duty matches, and endless commentary videos. But it wasn't just entertainment. Jimmy was studying. He wasn't watching casually like most kids. He was analyzing creators, breaking down why some channels worked while others faded into nothing. Around this time, he met Chris Tyson, another kid equally obsessed with YouTube. Unlike the shallow conversations Jimmy had forced himself through at school, his talks with Chris flowed endlessly. For the first time, he had someone who shared the same fire. Every time they met, their conversations only spiraled back to one subject: YouTube. But the true spark came when Jimmy discovered a creator named WoodisGamertag. This gamer quit his regular job and announced he was going full-time as a YouTuber. For most people, that seemed crazy. For Jimmy, it was a revelation. Suddenly, the platform he was obsessed with wasn't just entertainment. It could be a career. That realization hit him like lightning. If other people could do it, why couldn't he? So, at just 12 years old, Jimmy decided to take a shot. He created his first YouTube channel under a randomly generated Xbox username, MrBeast6000. Nobody knew at the time, but this clunky name would one day scale into YouTube's biggest brand. Eventually, He dropped the 6,000, leaving the simple and unforgettable name we all know today, MrBeast. At first, his videos were humble. Jimmy made gaming content with no face on screen, just him playing and talking. Over time, he experimented with opinion videos, where gameplay ran in the background while he commented on different topics. Slowly, he grew bolder. He started analyzing other YouTubers, their strategies, their content, even calculating how much money they might be making. And something strange happened. The same kid who struggled to string words together in real life suddenly came alive on camera, alone in his room, with nothing but a cheap microphone in his computer. Jimmy was freer than ever. He could finally speak his mind, not to classmates, not to teachers, but to the whole world. That spark, combining obsession with opportunity, was a moment that turned YouTube from a distraction into Jimmy's destiny. By the age of 15, Jimmy's life seemed to fall into a comfortable rhythm. Baseball during the day, YouTube videos at night. But then, out of nowhere, everything collapsed. He began losing weight rapidly. Sharp, stabbing pains would strike his stomach, sometimes leaving him curled up in agony. For weeks, nobody knew what was wrong. Then doctors finally gave him the answer. Crohn's disease, a painful, lifelong condition affecting the digestive system. For a teenager already battling loneliness, this was crushing. It not only left him weaker, but it also forced him to give up one of the only things that felt somewhat normal in his life, baseball. Suddenly, the field was gone. The teammates, the practices, the small slice of belonging he had built, all ripped away. But here's the part that changed everything. Instead of folding under the weight of this illness, Jimmy doubled down. If he couldn't control his health, he would control the one thing that gave him a spark: YouTube. At home, his mother still didn't know what he was up to. She thought her quiet son was just talking to friends on the computer. In reality, he was recording video after video, pouring every ounce of energy into this new obsession. The studio he built was laughably simple. His camera? A Windows phone recording in grainy 480p. His editing setup? An old laptop borrowed from his brother. Still, Jimmy didn't care. If the tools were bad, he would outwork everyone using them. Bit by bit, dollar by dollar, he saved money and slowly upgraded. A better laptop, a microphone, some lighting. Eventually, he begged his parents enough to get a second-hand iPhone. These tiny steps meant everything, because each upgrade gave him a little more fuel to keep climbing. His health was a battle. His shyness was still a cage. But when he sat in front of the camera, something shifted. YouTube wasn't just a hobby anymore. It was his escape. And more than that, it was becoming his obsession. That's when Jimmy made himself a silent promise. If life was going to test him, then he would fight back by giving everything to this one dream, no matter how long it took. By the time Jimmy turned 17, his obsession with YouTube had swallowed his entire life. He lived and breathed the platform, studying trends, brainstorming crazy ideas, uploading whenever he could. But to everyone else, especially his mother, it looked like he was just wasting time. When Jimmy finally confessed that he didn't want to go to college, that he wanted to pursue YouTube full-time, his mom snapped. She laid down an ultimatum: either continue his education or leave the house. Most kids would have backed down, but Jimmy wasn't like most kids anymore. He had already decided that YouTube wasn't just a hobby. It was his future. To keep his dream alive, he got clever. During the day, he pretended to attend classes. In reality, he was sneaking away, working on video after video, building his channel one upload at a time. And slowly, his content began shifting into something different. No more simple gameplay clips. Jimmy started creating videos that were strange, unique, and undeniably bold. One experiment saw him trying to cut a table in half using nothing but plastic knives. Another was purely about persistence, grinding through stunts that looked pointless to others but unforgettable to viewers. People had never seen videos like these before. They weren't polished, they weren't flashy, but they were intriguing, because Jimmy was willing to do things nobody else had the patience or madness to attempt. During his short time at college, Jimmy kept testing different formats and strategies. Little by little, Those videos started gaining traction. His ad revenue ticked upward, and within months, he was making enough that he no longer needed to fake his college attendance. Jimmy moved out and began living independently, fully committed to the life others told him was impossible. This was the birth of obsession mode. Jimmy had no plan B, no backup option. He was either going to make it as a YouTuber, or he was going to fail spectacularly trying. And then, after years of grinding the shadows, came the video that would change everything. For years, Jimmy had been experimenting. Upload after upload, failure after failure. But then in 2017, he came up with an idea that was equal parts simple, insane, and unforgettable. He would sit in front of a camera and count out loud all the way to 100,000. No tricks, no shortcuts, just raw obsession. Most people laughed when they heard the idea. Who would sit through someone counting numbers for hours? But Jimmy thought differently. The very impossibility of the challenge was what made it click-worthy. Nobody else would dare attempt something so outrageously boring. And that paradox was exactly why it worked. It took him over 40 exhausting hours to finish the count. His voice cracked, his eyes burned, and at points, he looked like he might collapse. But he pushed through, uploaded the video, and waited. The response was explosive. Within just 5 days, the video pulled in 5 million views, a massive leap from anything he'd uploaded before. In that moment, Jimmy realized he had stumbled on a formula. If a stunt was absurd, impossible, or just plain extreme, people couldn't resist clicking. And he didn't stop at one. Next, he doubled down, counting to 200,000, experimenting with strange what-if ideas, like microwaving a microwave or building massive towers of plastic cups. The crazier the idea, the stronger the reaction. By the end of 2017, MrBeast had finally broken to the wall of obscurity. His subscriber count shot from a few thousand to over 1 million, and for the first time, the YouTube world had to take notice. Then came another turning point. The moment MrBeast invented his now signature strategy of giving away money. When a small company called Quid offered him a brand deal for $5,000, Jimmy surprised them. Instead of quietly accepting, he asked for $10,000, confident that his next idea would explode. With that money, Jimmy filmed something no YouTuber had ever dared attempt. He walked up to a homeless man and handed him the entire $10,000. The man's stunned reaction, filled with gratitude and disbelief, became viral magic. And just like that, MrBeast unlocked a cycle so powerful it would eventually make him unstoppable, reinvesting money from one video into the next, turning generosity itself into a spectacle that millions couldn't stop watching. The boy obsessed with baseball had now found his new obsession, making the impossible go viral. Going viral once can be luck, but doing it again and again, that takes a system. And this is exactly what set MrBeast apart. After the success of his donation videos and extreme challenges, Jimmy realized something crucial. Views alone weren't enough. If people clicked but didn't stay to the end, the video would flop. So he studied the platform deeper than anyone before him, dissecting what kept people glued to the screen. He created a minute-by-minute retention blueprint that would become his secret weapon. Within the first 10 seconds, the viewer needed instant satisfaction. The thing promised in the title or thumbnail had to happen immediately. No stalls, no long intros. If the video said 1,000 deaf people were going to hear for the first time, the first person was fitted with hearing aids almost instantly. Viewers felt rewarded and wanted to keep watching. From 1 to 3 minutes, he used what he called crazy progression. Every moment escalated faster, the story building with no dead space, tricking viewers into thinking the climax was just around the corner. At the 3-minute mark, Jimmy introduced what he called re-engagement. This was a twist, a shocking surprise or stunt, like dropping a house from a crane, that jolted anyone drifting away right back into the video. Between 3 and 6 minutes, the content got more intense, pulling viewers into emotional moments with contestants, reactions, or storytelling. By then, investment wasn't just logical, it was emotional. At minute 6, another re-engagement hit, like a rule change, a shocking reveal, or a sudden twist in the challenge. Finally, every video raced toward a resolution and ended the second the satisfaction peaked. So there was zero chance for viewers to click off early. This wasn't just random editing. It was engineered obsession. But Jimmy didn't stop there. He took the same analytical approach to thumbnails, transforming them into irresistible clickbait, without crossing the line into deception. His methods included no clutter design, stripping thumbnails down to a single exploding idea, big versus small effect, placing himself tiny next to colossal objects like a Lego tower to shock the brain's sense of scale, color theory, dark backgrounds and bright colors that made his figure pop. In one case, he painted walls black on screen just so his orange shirt would dominate the thumbnail. All of this was designed for a single metric: clicks plus watch time, the two pillars that the YouTube algorithm loves most. By 2019, these methods paid off enormously. Jimmy crossed 20 million subscribers, launched bigger and wilder stunts, and built a cast of recurring characters like Chris, Chandler, Carl, and Nolan, turning his channel into not just content, but a kind of reality show that fans returned to week after week. MrBeast hadn't just cracked the algorithm, he became the blueprint. Every aspiring creator on the planet was suddenly studying his style, copying his pacing, and trying to decode his thumbnails. But while his rise looked unstoppable, he was about to face something that no retention chart could prepare him for. When you rewind the story, it's almost unbelievable. A boy too shy to make small talk found his voice in front of a cheap camera. An illness that could have broken him only fueled his obsession. A risk that meant clashing with his own family turned into the best decision of his life. Step by step, Jimmy Donaldson, MrBeast, rewrote the rules of YouTube. He shocked the world with viral stunts, redefined generosity as entertainment, and cracked the algorithm so perfectly that entire generations of creators now follow his playbook. Today, his empire stretches across multiple businesses, hundreds of millions of subscribers, billions of views, and a net worth crossing $1 billion. And yet, at the core of it all, is still the quiet teenager who chose obsession over fear. But here's the bigger question. When one person holds a crown of the internet, unmatched in influence and reach, how long can the throne last? Will the next controversy finally topple the king? Or is MrBeast only just getting started? One thing is certain. The story of MrBeast isn't just about YouTube. It's a reminder that even the quietest voices, when followed with relentless obsession, can echo louder than the rest of the world combined.